And this is the Monday, January 26th edition of USA Today, right here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. So a day after hundreds of thousands of people lost power and endured hazardous conditions that included bone-chilling cold, the winter storm called historic by President Donald Trump and others continued sweeping through parts of the country January 25th. Wintry conditions affecting tens of millions of Americans across more than a dozen states led to Trump approving federal emergency disaster declarations in South Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, Maryland, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Indiana, and West Virginia. More than 800,000 electrical outages had hit utility customers in Texas, Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Kentucky. More than 10,800 U.S. flights scheduled for January 25th were canceled, according to flight tracking website FlightAware. Over 4,000 flights were canceled January 24th. The scale and severity of this storm are historic, and so is the response, Drew Maloney, president and CEO of the Edison Electric Institute, told USA Today on January 24th. The institute represents U.S. investor-owned electric companies. According to National Weather, the ongoing major winter storm was expected to expand into the Northeast late January 25th. Heavy snow, sleet, and freezing rain will bring considerable impacts to much of the eastern half of the United States, the government agency said. The Weather Service added that very cold weather will continue this week. The agency is advising people in the storm's path to prepare themselves and their pets for life-threatening cold. We will continue to monitor and stay in touch with all states in the path of the storm. Stay safe, stay warm, Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social. Now, the Weather Channel identified the winter storm as Winter Storm Fern in its coverage and on social media. The TV network names storms that reach a certain threshold. However, the National Weather Service does not name winter storms. A well-known international system is used to name hurricanes and tropical cyclones, as it's not uncommon to have more than one hurricane or tropical storm moving at any given time. Without names, it could be confusing for meteorologists and members of the public who might be in harm's way. In an email to USA Today, the Weather Service said it has no plans to consider naming winter storms. Unlike tropical storms, winter storms are diverse with conditions that evolve throughout the storm's life, the Weather Service stated. That is why our forecasts, watches, and warnings focus on specific impacts such as wind conditions, snowfall, ice, temperature, visibility, and other impacts. The snow, sleet, and ice over the weekend show the complexities that make winter storms different from the spinning cyclones that move in one direction. Roughly 30 states were under at least one kind of weather advisory, but they were not all part of the same storm. The American Red Cross suggests people be ready for power outages with emergency preparedness kits that include coolers, ice, water, flashlights, and batteries, a first aid kit, and a 7-day supply of medications. Households affected by the storm should also keep track of food throughout the outage. If power is out for less than 2 hours, perishable food should still be safe to consume. However, after 4 hours without power, food in the fridge should be discarded. Regardless of how cold it gets, it's not recommended to use a stove or oven to heat your home. Gas ovens pose a dangerous carbon monoxide that can lead to poisoning or death. Our next story, the latest Minnesota shooting spurs new protests. Governor vows state will have the last word on the Preddy killing. Minnesota leaders are vowing to hold federal officials accountable for the fatal shooting on January 24th by a Border Patrol agent of a 37-year-old intensive care unit nurse whose death has sparked fresh protests in a state already rocked by the killing of Renee Nicole Good. Alex Pretty, a U.S. citizen and registered nurse who treated veterans, was shot and killed by a federal agent after confronting immigration authorities. Federal officials said Preddy was carrying a gun he intended to use to kill law enforcement. Videos from bystanders and a witness account in court filings do not show Preddy brandishing a weapon when he approached agents. The fatal shooting comes just weeks after an Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer shot and killed Good, age 37. Preddy's death and the heavily disputed way it happened has deepened the already tremendous tensions between state and federal officials. Governor Tim Walz and other Minnesotans are promising that the state will have the last word on the fatal shooting, that they see as a result of the Trump administration's deployment of agents in military-style tactical gear. I have a strong statement here for our federal government, the former candidate for vice president said at a news conference hours after the shooting. Minnesota's justice system will have the last word on this. It must have the last word. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced a set of demands following the shooting that said she will restore law and order in the state. Among them, she demanded Minnesota officials turn over voter registration records, repeal sanctuary city laws, and support immigration agents' operations. You and your office must restore the rule of law, support ICE officers, and bring an end to the chaos in Minnesota, Bondi wrote, according to a copy of the letter shared by Fox News. I am confident that these simple steps will help bring back law and order to Minnesota and improve the lives of Americans. Minnesota National Guard members on January 24th were deployed at the governor's request to secure the site of the shooting and the Whipple Federal Building, a known immigration authority staging area that's become a hotspot for protesters, according to the statement. A federal judge in Minnesota temporarily barred Trump administration officials from destroying or altering evidence related to the shooting of Preddy. The order came shortly after the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office filed a lawsuit and asked the court to prevent such destruction of evidence. Leadership of the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Customs and Border Protection, and the U.S. Border Control, as well as U.S. Attorney General Bondi, are named as defendants in the suit. U.S. District Judge Eric Tostrud scheduled a hearing on January 26 to hear objections to the order from the federal officials and determine whether it should remain in effect. Meanwhile, Representative Andrew Garbarino, a Republican from New York, formally requested that the heads of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Custom and Border Protection, and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services testify at a full hearing before the House Committee on Homeland Security. I take my oversight duties for the department seriously, and Congress has an important responsibility to ensure the safety of law enforcement and the people they serve and protect, Garbarino said. I am committed to ensuring ICE, CPB, and USCIS are effectively using the historic resources provided through reconciliation to strengthen public safety, and I look forward to each of these agencies testifying before the committee. Well, who is Alex Preddy? Age 37, a U.S. citizen and registered nurse who worked at a U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs Medical Center in Minneapolis, was identified as the man fatally shot by a federal officer on January 24th amid an immigration enforcement action. Colleagues and family described the Minneapolis resident as a compassionate, skilled nurse who was troubled by the Trump administration's immigration enforcement crackdown in the Twin Cities. Shortly after the shooting, federal officials labeled him a domestic terrorist who arrived at the scene of an immigration enforcement action with a gun to inflict maximum damage and kill law enforcement. He had a permit for his firearm, and multiple videos from bystanders showed him approaching officers with his phone. In a federal court filing January 24th, a witness of the shooting wrote that Preddy did not brandish a weapon of any kind, and that afterwards agents appeared to be counting his bullet wounds. The sworn declaration to the court comes in connection to a class action lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security, charging the agency with using intimidation tactics reminiscent of pre-World War II Germany or Pinchot's Chile to chill free speech protected under the First Amendment. According to the court filing, the witness, whose name was redacted, is a physician who lives near where the shooting occurred. The witness woke up on January 24th to the sound of screaming from outside and saw Preddy yelling at ICE agents. I saw him yelling at the ICE agents, but I did not see him attack the ICE agents or brandish a weapon of any kind, the witness wrote. Suddenly, an ICE agent shoved him to the ground. My view of the altercation was partially obstructed, but after a few seconds, I saw at least 4 ICE agents point guns at the man. I then saw the agents shoot the man at least 6 or 7 times. Afterwards, the witness went to treat Preddy's wounds. The witness said agents were not administering first aid. I was confused as to why the victim was on his side, because that is not standard practice, the pediatrician wrote. Checking for a pulse and administering CPR is standard practice. Instead of doing either of those things, the ICE agents appeared to be counting his bullet wounds. Fatal shooting at the hands of federal agents jeopardizes late scramble to keep government funded. We'll follow up with that in a moment. You're listening to articles from the front section of USA Today from Monday, January 26, right here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The first move on Hot Take Date, Be Upfront. Would-be couples share views from the get-go. 2026 is coming in hot with a new dating trend. It's called Hot Take Dating, and according to Tinder's Year in Swipe 2025 report, released in December, it's already starting to take over the dating scene. And it's a doozy. You know the typical advice of avoiding touchy subjects like politics or religion with someone you just met, especially on the first date? Well, Hot Take Dating throws out the conventional wisdom, encouraging daters to get up front and be honest as possible about their viewpoints, especially their most controversial ones. The logic of Hot Take Dating is that by sharing your most outlandish opinions early on, you'll be more efficiently filtering out people who aren't a good match for you and attract those who are. It's not a totally flawed strategy. People are now so accustomed to sharing opinions online, we kind of been conditioned to be clearer and bolder in our stances. Dating and relationship experts say, but if not done tactfully, hot take dating could land you in hot water. It could also accidentally repel people who otherwise would have been a good match, but got the wrong impression about how set you are in your beliefs. Politics top of mind, there are a few reasons why hot date dating is taking off, says Damona Hoffman, a dating coach and the author of F the Fairy Tale, Rewrite the Dating Myths, and Live Your Own Love Story. The first, she says, is the political climate. Data shows politics is at the top of daters' minds. According to the Year in Swipe report, 37% of singles say they find shared values essential for dating, and 41% say they're unwilling to date someone with opposing political views. The trend has also emerged, Hoffman says, because of social media, which encourages people to have a hot take about pretty much everything to gain attention and followers. That approach has bled over into dating apps too, she says. People are now so accustomed to sharing opinions online, and it's almost like in order to get traction, you have to have a hot take, Hoffman says. We've kind of been conditioned to be clearer and bolder in our stances. Hot take dating also has become common as online dating becomes the primary way of meeting potential partners. If you said something really shocking and offensive on a date that your friend set up or from someone you met at a party who knew your social circle or who knew through work, that could have repercussions down the road, Hoffman says. But when you're dating without the social pressures of your real-life community, you can say whatever you want. Hot take dating in itself isn't bad when done the right way, That means sharing controversial views only on the topics that matter most to you. Those who are in disagreement would prove a genuine deal breaker. It also means sharing your views in a respectful manner so you can invite conversations rather than arguments. Still, hot take daters ought to know what they're getting themselves into when they join the trend, says Blaine Anderson, a dating coach for men. Inevitably, you're going to turn some people off, and you have to be okay with that. By sharing your most extreme viewpoints, it's very easy to come off as an extreme person. And most people, as a matchmaker, what I see, aren't looking to date somebody in the extremes, Anderson says. Where hot take dating can go wrong is giving the illusion that you are rigid or inflexible in your views. Still, Hoffman says, it's better to hot take date than to not talk about your values or opinions at all. Ideally, however, daters should find a happy medium where they're honest about what matters to them while remaining respectful if their date disagrees. It's a move in the right direction, Hoffman says. In prior years, people were really hesitant to have those conversations because those are the conversations that might make someone not want to see you anymore. This is ultimately a really good move because it's going to lead people into more meaningful relationships and it's going to start more meaningful conversations. And remember, she says, it's a date, not a debate. If you're going to share a hot take, do so with the intention of gauging compatibility rather than trying to change the other person's mind. No one wants to be preached to. Nobody wants to be told they're wrong, Hoffman says. If you are trying to convince someone of your hot take, or you're trying to prove them wrong or doing it from a place of competition, then you're always going to go wrong. So from the do we really need to know this department? The question, what are snow fleas? Well, they're harmless, experts say. They're tiny, they get lots of air while jumping, they come in such large numbers that they may even make snow appear black. But experts say snow fleas emerging during winter months have one goal, and it isn't to harm you. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service explained in a January 11th Facebook post that snow fleas have been around since before dinosaurs existed. The reason you can sometimes see them in the snow is because cold temperatures slow them down, the service said. Everyone unclench, the service said in a post, noting that they're not really fleas and they don't live inside homes. The post about the creatures came as states across the country prepared for bursts of heavy snow, including the Ohio Valley and the Central Appalachians. With its post, the Fish and Wildlife Service shared a video of snow fleas captured in eastern Massachusetts. Calling the snow fleas activity a chaotic routine, the service assured residents that the creatures don't do any of the things people often worry about. They don't bite, the service wrote. They don't suck blood. They don't want your warmth. And although they won't harm you, they do serve a purpose. And here's what we know. So what are snow fleas? Snow fleas are arthropods, and they have jointed appendages for flexibility, segmented bodies, and exoskeletons made of chitin, a substance that provides support and protection, according to the Marine Bioconservation Society. Snow fleas typically measure between 4 and 10 millimeters long and have a 4 to 6 segment body with 2 antennae and 6 legs, reported the Lansing State Journal, part of the USA Today network. Snow fleas are present throughout the year and can be found in soil or around tree bases. While they are flightless, they are known for the rapid jumping motion they make. In order to jump like this, snow fleas use their built-in tails called furculae, allowing them to jump high into the air, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service said. Multiple factors make snow fleas more noticeable. That's including cold temperatures that slow them down. They are also more noticeable due to melting snow that allows them to move up through breaks in piles. Calling them tiny compost managers, The Fish and Wildlife Service said all snow fleas or springtails want is to eat decaying plant matter. Snow fleas break down dead organic matter so other soil creatures can eat as well. The snow fleas also keep plant pests in check, the National Wildlife Federation wrote on its blog. They munch on fungi, microbes, decaying plant matter, and microfauna. Snow fleas are able to pick up on food sources by smell, the Federation wrote. Referring to previous studies, it said snow fleas are attracted to moss fragrances like bees to flowers. So where are they located? Well, they can be found everywhere, including Antarctica, according to the National Wildlife Federation. They like moist environments and can be found on fungi and soil, in leaf litter, tree canopies, moss, and of course on snow. At one time, there could be as many as 12,000 of them per square foot of soil, the Federation said. Snow fleas produce an antifreeze protein that allows them to survive the winter, according to the Menominee National Wildlife Refuge in Massachusetts and the Lansing State Journal. Well, it's certainly that time of year for experts offering tips to avoid hypothermia in a snowstorm. Avoiding the cold is something most of us try to do, but winter brings prolonged stretches of low temperatures that are difficult to escape. Bundling up, limiting time outdoors, and planning ahead for activities like skiing or snowmobiling can all help. But unexpected exposures still happen every year. A stalled car, getting caught in the rain or snow, a sudden cold weather snap, or even living in an underheated home can all cause body temperatures to drop faster than many people think. When that happens, the risk of hypothermia rises sharply. Although numbers can vary, more than 1,000 hypothermia-related deaths occur annually in the United States, and thousands more non-fatal cases are treated in emergency rooms across the country and beyond. Here's what hypothermia is, what causes it, and how it typically is treated if it affects you or someone you love. Hypothermia occurs when the body loses heat faster than it can produce, causing core temperature to fall below what the body needs to function normally. Mild cases occur when internal temperature falls to 90 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 32 to 35 degrees Celsius. Moderate cases are when it hits 82 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 28 to 32 degrees Celsius. Severe cases are when internal temperature is in the 77 to 82 degree Fahrenheit or 25 to 28 degrees Celsius range. And extreme cases are when your temperature falls below 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius. According to Dr. Lala Garapajan, an emergency medicine physician at Stanford Healthcare, previously told USA Today, such drops can quickly disrupt how the brain, heart, and nervous system function. Symptoms may be subtle in the early stages. Mild hyperthermia typically presents with rapid heart rate, fast breathing, apathy, and sometimes frequent urination. Dr. Kevin Watkins, an emergency medicine physician at Cleveland Clinic Akron General, also previously told USA Today. But as internal temperature continues to fall, shivering may stop altogether, an especially dangerous shift because shivering is one of the body's primary mechanisms for generating heat through involuntary muscle contractions and increased metabolic activity. At that point, symptoms can escalate to a lack of coordination, confusion, unconsciousness, and even death by cardiac arrest. Severe cases are also often accompanied by frostbite, which can result in additional life or limb-threatening complications, Watkins adds. So what causes low body temperature? Hypothermia develops when environmental or physiological conditions push heat loss beyond what the body can replace. Prolonged exposure to either cold air or cold water or snow are the primary culprits. Indeed, water is particularly hazardous because it conducts heat away from the body much faster than air, even in warm weather, Watkins says. Because of this, hypothermia can set in at temperatures well above freezing if a person is wet. Ditto if a person is inadequately dressed or exposed to wind that strips away the thin insulating layer of warm air near the skin. Certain medical conditions and environmental factors also increase susceptibility to hypothermia. Endocrine disorders such as hypothyroidism, diabetes, or adrenal insufficiency can impact temperature regulation of your brain. Malnutrition, dehydration, stroke, and spinal cord injuries can also impair heat regulation. Low body fat or muscle mass reduces insulation. And age-related physiological changes make both infants and older adults more vulnerable. Medications such as sedatives that slow metabolism or impair awareness can also interfere with the body's ability to sense cold and mount a protective response. And substances like alcohol may make you feel warmer, but actually accelerate heat loss, Watkins adds. How to treat hypothermia. Regardless of the cause, hypothermia is often treatable, but treatment depends on severity. Care focuses on preventing further heat loss and gradually restoring core temperature. For mild hypothermia, treatment begins with removing the individual from the cold environment and taking off any wet or cold clothing before providing warm, dry layers, Watkins says. Offering warm, not hot, fluids if the person is alert, and applying blankets or skin-to-skin contact can further help gently raise core temperature. Providing calories if the person can safely swallow is also important, as shivering consumes significant energy, Watkins adds. Some of these steps can be taken at home if symptoms are limited to shivering and the person is fully alert. But immediate medical care is critical if shivering stops while still exposed to the cold, confusion sets in, or if the person cannot warm up quickly. Without timely treatment, symptoms of hypothermia can worsen. The core temperature can further decrease, and people can lose limbs, have organ failure, and die. In the hospital, clinicians may use active external rewarming techniques such as heated blankets, forced warm air systems, or warmed IV fluids. If indeed more invasive core temperature measures may be recommended, and if extreme hypothermia and severe symptoms occurs, placing tubes in the chest and abdomen to give warm fluids and in circulation through cardiopulmonary bypass may be necessary to stabilize the patient. But prevention remains the most effective protection. Wear layers of warm, dry clothing that include head, hand, and feet covering when going into a cold environment. It's also important to change out wet clothes promptly and to anticipate weather changes, to avoid alcohol and drugs and stay hydrated and nourished, Watkins says. Proper hydration and nutrition help your body cope with cold stress more effectively. Hypothermia develops when environmental or physiological conditions push heat loss beyond what the body can replace. You're listening to a reading of articles from USA Today for Monday, January 26th. Everyone has their mind on the cold weather, so here's a question. Do trees explode in cold temperatures? Well, sort of. Severe cold temperatures hitting much of the country this week could branch out literally. As people brace for the winter weather, some social media posts in recent days have warned of the chance for exploding trees, but experts say that's not entirely true. A sudden drop in temperature can cause a break in a tree known as a frost crack. Bill McNee, a forest health specialist with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, told the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, part of the USA Today network. While frost cracks can be loud and cause branches to fall off, it would be extremely rare for a tree to fully explode because of it, McNee said. Well, here's what we know about exploding trees. Can severe weather actually cause a tree to explode? McNee said it's not uncommon for a sudden drop in temperature to cause the frost cracks in trees. Those cracks can run the full length of a tree and are accompanied by a loud bang, according to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. It's going to get cold enough that this sap may actually finally freeze, and when it does, like ice cubes in your freezer, they expand very quickly, McNee told the Journal Sentinel. That just creates a lot of physical pressure that can lead to the frost cracking appearing suddenly, and branches can fall off, and people hear this really loud crack from their tree, almost like a gunshot, the forest health specialist said. It would be unlikely for a tree to fully explode because of frost cracking. Usually the crack becomes part of the tree, McNee said. I've never seen the damage of it, but from what I have seen and what I read online is that it is rare for there just to be so much pressure that is suddenly released inside the tree that it almost does explode, McNee said. McNee advised anyone who sees a severe crack in a tree to consult an arborist to evaluate if the tree is a safety hazard. Severe frost cracking could cause trees to fall. So frost cracks are vertical openings that can extend deep into the wood of a tree. They are most often on the trunk, but branches can also be affected, according to the University of Connecticut. McNee said frost cracks occur because the thick sap inside a tree freezes at a colder temperature than water and usually stays liquid even when temperatures are well below freezing, a state known as supercooling. Another factor that can lead to frost cracks, according to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, is that when temperatures drop suddenly, the exterior of a tree can get much colder than a tree's inner wood, causing the cell of the tree's bark to shrink and lead to unequal contraction between the tissues of the tree's exterior and interior. Frost cracks are most likely to occur in thin bark trees like maples and sycamores, but can happen in other species, according to the Department of Natural Resources. McNee said any tree that has sap could have frost cracking in the right conditions. Frost cracking is common for many trees every few winters, and some trees adopt by dehydrating themselves before winter, making it less likely for physical damage to occur, McNee said. For most trees that do get a crack, the living part of the tree typically heals over the wound over time, he said. However, a crack can expose a tree to fungal infection or decay, and that could lead to the tree dying. So-called exploding trees aren't the only strange weather phenomenon out there. Thundersnow, and we've certainly seen that, a rare weather event occurs when snow, rather than rain, accompanies a thunderstorm. Pancake ice, a type of ice that resembles the breakfast staple, forms in bodies of water in cold weather when waves are still churning the surface. Chunks of ice collide and clump together, forming round, flat disks that resemble pancakes floating on the water's surface, according to the Weather Channel. Snow rollers, a kind of nature-made snowball, are a cylindrical forming of snow that happen when snow chunks roll down hills or are blown along the ground by wind, according to the Idaho State Department of Education. And when it comes to cracks, another phenomenon known as a frostquake can create cracks in the ground caused by the freezing and expansion of water deep within the Earth's crust, according to AccuWeather. An Arctic frost is expected to bring frigid temperatures to the middle and eastern part of the country right through January 26, according to the National Weather Service's latest forecast. Wind chills could fall as low as -60 across Illinois, Minnesota, and North and South Dakota. From the northeast to states as far west as Colorado and Montana, wind chills are expected to hover around 10 degrees below zero. In the southern half of the country, from New Mexico to South Carolina, wind chills could be around 10 to 20 degrees. Meanwhile, a winter storm will bring heavy snow from the southern Rockies and plains through the mid-Atlantic and into the Northeast, through the weekend, per the National Weather Service. Well, did you ever want to send your name to space during a moon mission? You might have an opportunity here. 4 astronauts are about to fly around the moon, and you can join them, well, in a way. NASA is inviting the public to add their names to a mission known as Artemis II that is due to launch between February and April from Florida. Those who participate can have their names included on the Orion capsule that will carry 3 Americans and 1 Canadian on the first human lunar spaceflight in more than 50 years. The mission is in the final stages of preparation after NASA recently rolled out the gigantic Space Launch System rocket that will provide the initial burst of thrust at liftoff to send astronauts on their way. The second under NASA's multi-billion-dollar Artemis Moon program, the mission is crucial to lay groundwork for a future lunar landing ahead of the first crewed voyages to Mars. Here's what to know about how you can be part of history when Artemis II gets off the ground. NASA reaches out to the public. There may not be enough seats for you to travel on the Artemis II mission yourself, but at least your name can punch a ticket aboard the Orion capsule. NASA has advertised a website where you can send your name around the moon. When you enter your name and desired PIN, NASA will generate a virtual boarding pass that users can access anytime. The pass displays the entered name, details about the mission, and a QR code that redirects to NASA's virtual guest program, where you can sign up to receive Artemis II updates and other information. Submitted names will be included digitally on an SD card that will be stored inside Orion during the Artemis II mission, according to NASA. As of Thursday, January 22nd, more than 3,000 names have been added to the list, according to NASA's website. NASA's Artemis program is the agency's ambitious campaign to return Americans to the surface of the moon for the first time since the Apollo era came to an end in 1972. In the years ahead, NASA's Artemis program aims to launch a series of crewed missions to establish a continuous human presence on the moon with a lunar settlement on the South Pole. That's where water ice, thought to be inabundant in the region, could be extracted and used for drinking, breathing, and as a source of hydrogen and oxygen for rocket fuel. From there, the lunar settlement would serve as a base of operations to make the first crewed space mission to Mars possible. The Space Launch System could launch as early as February 6 from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, propelling the Orion capsule, carrying the crew of Artemis II toward the moon. The astronauts won't be making a lunar landing, but will rather circle the moon on a 10-day trip to test systems and hardware for future expeditions to the surface. The Orion capsule the crew will pilot, built by Lockheed Martin, is due to travel about 4,700 miles beyond the far side of the moon, taking its passengers the farthest humans have ever ventured in space before returning to Earth. The mission would come more than 3 years after Artemis I launched November 16, 2022, from the Kennedy Space Center, sending the Orion capsule on a moon-orbiting mission without a crew in the first test of the vehicle. A moon landing would then take place during Artemis III, which President Donald Trump has signaled he wants to see happen before the end of his second term. The crew of Artemis II includes NASA astronauts Reid Wiseman, Victor Glover, and Christina Koch, as well as the Canadian Space Agency's Jeremy Hansen. Koch and Glover represent the first woman and first African American, respectively, assigned to a NASA lunar mission. Additionally, Hansen is set to become the first Canadian to fly close to the moon, according to Reuters. You're listening to the Monday, January 26th edition of USA Today, here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Your reader, Chuck Stevens. Let's head over to the money section now. Dr. Pepper uses TikToker's jingle, "It's Good and Nice," for its latest commercial. Dr. Pepper, baby, it's good and nice, do. That's what TikToker at Romeo's Show sang as they impulsively shared a clip of the Dr. Pepper jingle a few days before Christmas. Dr. Pepper took the jingle further over the weekend of January 17th through the 18th, allowing millions to hear it in an official commercial that aired during the 2026 College Football Playoff National Championship on Monday, January 19th. The 15-second commercial features At Romeo's Show's vocals over a fun melody and the sizzling sound of a freshly opened can of Dr. Pepper pouring into an ice-cold glass. The last few seconds of the commercial include harmonizing voices as they deliver one last do. The TikToker shared the initial jingle idea on December 23rd, tagging Dr. Pepper and adding that the jingle was impulsively posted. That same day, Dr. Pepper replied, "Hold on, you might be onto something," and later sent a direct message. The video has since racked up more than 35 million views on TikTok. Once the jingle became viral, other brands such as Subway, Popeyes, Wingstop, Welch's Fruit Snacks, and Buffalo Wild Wings took to the comments to ask the user to create jingles for them too. The TikToker later made another jingle, this time for Hyundai. Drew Panitu, Chief Marketing Officer at Keurig Dr. Pepper, said in the emailed statement to USA Today on January 21st that once Romeo tagged the company in the post, the team knew it had to reach out. As a brand so deeply ingrained in the culture and fandom surrounding college football, Dr. Pepper had a unique opportunity to extend Romeo's jingle, celebrating the unique flavor of Dr. Pepper beyond social media. When asked whether Romeo was paid for the jingle and how much, Panitu said the company could not disclose financial information, but Palso Neotu confirmed that the team was working with Romeo in an official capacity, including the commercial as well as social content across Dr. Pepper and Romeo's channels. Los Angeles-based creative studio Deutsch worked on the 15-second ad, according to USA Today. Romeo and company representatives spoke over the past few weeks, and the ad took 3.5 days to develop. The commercial aired twice during the national championship game on ESPN. As the commercial began to air on television during the game, TikTokers tagged At Romeo's Show to congratulate the content creator. On January 19th, Romeo shared another video as if they were winning a Best National Championship Commercial Award for the jingle, thanking supporters online, family members, and friends. Dr. Pepper and other companies commented to give their congratulations. Pulling up to give our congrats, Toyota USA commented. TGI Fridays commented to say how proud the company was of the content creator. Another user at Adventures with Steffo shared that they weren't fans of Dr. Pepper before, but Romeo's jingle may have changed that. The jingle makes me want to try it again, the user wrote, because it probably is good and nice. More on the content creator behind the Dr. Pepper jingle. The TikToker shared another video on Christmas Day, putting a holiday spin on the jingles. "Merry Christmas, baby," the TikToker user said. "Hope it's good and nice, do. Houston rapper and DJ Paul Wall commented on the post that day, adding that he likes it. "It reminds me of this Dr. Pepper commercial I saw," he wrote, adding a laughing emoji, "Merry Christmas." After the video went viral, people encouraged the TikToker to do more jingles. The content creator instead chose to showcase other skills, rapping instead. More from the money section of USA Today. Insurance CEO vows to rebate profits to customers. United Health Group CEO Stephen Hemsley vowed to rebate Affordable Care Act profits to customers in 2026. The Minnesota-based insurance giant, which provides insurance coverage to about 1 million individuals enrolled in Obamacare plans in 30 states, will rebate 2026 profits to those customers, Hemsley said. Hemsley is one of 5 insurance company CEOs who were set to appear January 22nd before a House committee probing insurance affordability. The hearing comes as the expiration of COVID-19 era tax credits sent ACA insurance costs soaring for millions of Americans enrolled in these plans. Though United Healthcare is a relatively small participant in the individual ACA market, we will voluntarily eliminate and rebate our profits this year for these coverages as Congress continues to work towards more long-term solutions, Hemsley said in a prepared remarks released January 21st by the Health Insurance Subcommittee. Without the enhanced tax credits that expire at the end of 2025, the average cost for 22 million Americans who get subsidized ACA insurance more than doubled in January, according to KFF, a health policy nonprofit. The House of Representatives on January 8th voted to extend the enhanced subsidies for an additional 3 years. The bill is less likely to clear the Senate, which previously voted to reject the enhanced subsidies. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimated the House legislation to extend the subsidies another 3 years would add $80.6 billion to the federal budget deficit by 2035. Some consumers told USA Today they are struggling to afford their rising expenses for ACA insurance plans, trimming household costs or dropping coverage. The CBO estimated 3.8 million Americans are expected to lose health insurance through 2035 because of the expiration of the enhanced subsidies. In his prepared remarks, Hemsley urged Congress to broaden consumer choice by making catastrophic ACA plans eligible for tax credits, a move he said would give younger and healthier consumers options to obtain affordable coverage. He also said Congress should standardize health insurance broker compensation for ACA plans. ACA broker compensation isn't standardized now, which creates incentives for brokers to steer consumers toward plans that pay higher commissions rather than those that best meet an individual's needs, Hemsley said in his prepared remarks. In a statement, United Health Group said while the company is still working on the details about ACA rebates, we intend to return this money to ACA members. The ACA requires health insurance companies to spend a minimum of 80% of monthly health insurance premiums on medical care and quality improvement. In other words, administrative costs and profit can't exceed 20% of monthly premiums. Under the so-called 80-20 rule, insurance plans must rebate consumers if they don't meet this threshold. Other CEOs who are expected to appear at the House Health Subcommittee hearing were CVS Health's David Joyner, Accedium's Paul Markovich, Elevance Health Gail Bordeaux, and Cigna Group's David Cordani. Looking for a new job in 2026? Well, Glassdoor's best places to work in 2026 is a car wash. An Indianapolis-based car wash chain topped the list of best places to work in 2026 on the job site Glassdoor based on employee reviews. Crew Car Wash, a family-owned business with around 55 locations across Indiana and Minnesota, nabbed the top spot on Glassdoor's 100 Best Places to Work in 2026. It had ranked second on the list last year. Thank you to our amazing team members who make this achievement possible, the company said in a post on social media. Glassdoor, in a news release, said the company claimed the top spot was with a 4.6 rating out of 5, with reviews that centered around supportive leadership, career growth, and team culture fueling success. Now in their 18th year, Glassdoor's annual Employees' Choice Awards honor the best places to work 2026 across the U.S. and the United Kingdom, according to a news release. The company, which offers employees a platform for work-life conversations and career insights, said, unlike other workplace awards, its Employees' Choice Awards are based on the input of employers who voluntarily provide anonymous feedback on Glassdoor by completing a company review about their job, work environment, and employer over the past year. In today's competitive job market, Glassdoor's Best Places to Work Award serves as a trusted guide for job seekers, spotlighting the companies where employees thrive while helping candidates connect with workplaces that reflect their value and career ambitions. Glassdoor President Owen Humphreys said in a statement, adding that the standout employers listed have shown resilience, sustaining high levels of employee satisfaction and trust as they navigate change, even amid the uncertainty of 2025. So the top 10 places to work in 2026, according to Glassdoor, are number 1, Crew Car Wash, number 2, In-N-Out Burger, number 3, NVIDIA, number 4, Ryan 5 Keller Williams, number 6, Mars, number 7, ServiceNow, number 8, Bain & Company, number 9, Houston Methodist, and number 10, EPAM Systems. While Crew Car Wash emerged as the top contender, several new companies debuted on the 100 Best Places to Work list, including Alaska Airlines at number 38, Dutch Brothers Coffee at 75, and Bath & Body Works at 80, showcasing fresh faces in workplace excellence, according to Glassdoor. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Bay Area declined in representation, with only 13 companies on the list compared with 23 in 2025. On the other hand, New York City gained ground with 10 companies, up from 6 in 2024. The report added manufacturing and retail increased representation, while technology, healthcare, and biotech pharma saw fewer winners year over year. Glassdoor's Best Places to Work in 2026 winners were determined using the company's proprietary awards algorithm, according to the news release. Rankings are based on the quantity, quality, and consistency of reviews submitted by U.S.-based employees between October 17, 2024 and October 16, 2025. Glassdoor said adding large companies require at least 75 ratings per category. Next, from USA Today's Money section, Musk Ryanair boss O'Leary feud over SpaceX's Starlink. Few businesses and few business leaders clash publicly with the White House or its erstwhile advisor Elon Musk. Ryanair boss Michael O'Leary is doing a little of both. After calling Donald Trump a liar and deriding the president's foreign policy and economic tariffs in an interview with Politico, O'Leary has engaged in a very public exchange of insults with the world's richest man. The trouble began when O'Leary ruled out installing SpaceX's Starlink on his budget airline's fleet of Boeing jets to provide passengers with Wi-Fi. He said the extra weight from the external antennas would consume more fuel. Musk said he was misinformed. Then O'Leary called Musk an idiot. He was the guy who advocated getting Donald Trump elected, O'Leary, known for his provocative comments, told an Irish radio station this week. I would pay no attention whatsoever to Elon Musk. Musk fired back by labeling O'Leary an utter idiot and an imbecile and suggesting he might launch a takeover of Ryanair. He even polled his followers on the social media platform X about the idea. More than three-quarters said he should. The war of the words escalated January 21st at a news conference convened by O'Leary in Dublin, where Ryanair is based. O'Leary dismissed Musk's threat to buy the discount airline and put someone whose actual name is Ryan in charge, noting European Union rules bar non-citizens from owning a major stake in a European airline. But O'Leary said he would happily take Musk's money. If he wants to invest in Ryanair, we would think it's a very good investment, O'Leary said, adding the returns would be better than those from Musk's X, according to Reuters. Mr. Musk is welcome to buy shares, but he can't take control. Already, Musk's Twitter tantrum has been good for business, given Ryanair's sales a sales bump, O'Leary said. Ryanair this week launched a great idiot seat sale, especially for Elon Musk and other idiots on X, offering 100,000 seats for €16.99 for one-way fares. So far, Musk has not responded. Starlink did not respond to a USA Today request for comments. O'Leary said Ryanair had been in negotiations with Starlink for about a year about installing the Starlink system, which is used by other airlines such as Qatar Airways, Canada's WestJet, and Hawaiian Airlines. It's a terrific system. It works very well, he said, but estimated that it would set his airline back about $250 million a year. He also estimated that less than 5% of passengers on his airline's short-haul flights would pony up for the Wi-Fi service. The airline is in discussions with other providers. If he wants to invest in Ryanair, we would think it's a very good investment. Mr. Musk is welcome to buy shares, but he can't take control. Michael O'Leary, CEO of Ryanair. You've been listening to a reading of articles from USA Today, the Monday, January 26th edition. We've read from the front section and the Money Link section right here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Your reader has been Chuck Stevens. Thank you for listening.
Turn now for reading of the USA Today for January 26th. Your reader for this hour is Tom Scanlon. As always, we turn to the sports page, and our first article is titled, Big Ten Wants CFP for Revenue. We're going about this in the wrong way, starting at the glam instead of the guts. College football doesn't have a playoff problem. College football has a player movement problem. Yet the solution from all involved is as daring as it is dumb. Throw more money at it. The Big Ten wants a 24-team college football playoff format, and the SEC, Big 12, and ACC want 16. The CFP officially stayed at 12 for 2026 as of January 23rd because the SEC and Big Ten, at this point, can't agree the sun sets in the West. The idea of CFP change didn't quickly evolve because university presidents decided they liked the new postseason and wanted more teams to experience the sheer magnitude of it all. Because their athletic departments are desperate for money in the new player empowerment era. These movers and shakers of higher education took nearly 150 years to agree on a 4-team format, and 12 years later are already debating moving to 24. Not because it works, but because of necessity. A 12-team playoff earns an estimated $1.5 billion annually in media rights from ESPN. Double the teams, you're more likely than double the price. Player salaries have not only taken $23 million annually in media rights money away from a university's bottom line, they're on the verge of taking much more. Apparently only the Big Ten sees this. There's no other reason the Big Ten, which had to be kicking and screaming into the original 4-team CFP, digging in on the 24 teams. Who would take a playoff that already has obvious growth flaws just 2 years into moving to 12 teams and want to double the entries? Well, the same person who tried to sell 10% of Big Ten's media rights to capital investors for $2.4 billion. You may not like Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petty's business chops, but at least he's stepping into the box and taking swings. At least he sees the employee training barrel laying down the track and knows it's time to do something. Because once players become employees, once only the salve to free player movement is enacted and players begin working off multi-year unbreakable contracts, universities will be sharing much more than $23 million annually. Call it what you want. You say 1099 individual contractors. I say collective bargaining. No matter how you swing it, you're still negotiating with players for a significantly larger piece of the media rights pie in exchange for multi-year deals. The Big Ten presidents understand this and have given Petty leeway in finding new revenue streams, so he's taking Ruthian swings. Do you really think Petitti believes the 6th or 7th or more Big Ten or SEC team in a 24-team playoff is good for the health of the game? Of course not. It is, however, good for the financial bottom line of every university in the Big Ten. He's gambling, to a larger extent than the SEC, Big 12, and ACC, that college football is bulletproof. No matter how you change format or tweak it, fans can't get enough. More to the point, media companies, legacy and streaming, can't pay enough. Indiana and Miami just played a national championship game that drew an average of 30.1 million viewers. At one point in the game, the high water mark was 33 million. College football is second only to the NFL in live television viewership members and is widely undervalued. The NBA in 2024 signed an 11-year deal worth $76 billion from ESPN/ABC, NBC, and Amazon Prime, and its television numbers pale in comparison to college football. The Big Ten presidents and the Petty see the fatted calf and want it. Doesn't mean the SEC, Big 12, and ACC don't also. Just means they haven't reached the point of desperation. Because if the Big 12 and ACC were to agree with the Big 10 and want to move to a 24-team playoff, the SEC would go along. President of the SEC and Commissioner Greg Sankey can threaten to have their own playoff, but they won't be the single reason college football isn't whole. Now the rub. The CFP actually feels right at 12 teams. They get rid of the freebies for the group of 6 and give them the same access as Notre Dame. If you're ranking in the top 12, you're in. Moving to 16 teams eliminates the reward for a first-round bye, further diminishing the regular season. Moving to 12 teams likely means a clunky first round of 8 byes, presumably the top 8 teams. It also includes 4 automatic bids for each of the Power 4 conferences. 2025, that would have moved Southern Cal, Virginia, SMU, Pitt, BYU, Utah, and Houston into the CFP. Woof. Hey, somebody has to take big swings to fix the looming player movement problem. Even it's as daring as it is dumb. Here's a review of current events within the National Football League. Mike McCarthy linking up with the Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a new leader. One of the most successful franchises in NFL history chose his 4th head coach of the Super Bowl era, Mike McCarthy. Unlike the previous 3 hires, McCarthy brings expertise on the offensive side of the ball. Pittsburgh trio of coaches since 1970, Mike Tomlin, Bill Cowher, and Chuck Noll, all had backgrounds on the defensive side of the ball. McCarthy's also the only one to have an NFL head coach prior to coming to Pittsburgh. He spent 13 years with the Green Bay Packers and won a Super Bowl 2010, coincidentally against his new employer, Pittsburgh. He also spent 5 seasons, that's from 2020 to 24, with the Cowboys in Dallas. This move closes up one of the more attractive jobs in the hiring cycle. Pittsburgh hasn't finished below 500 in a season since 2003, all with all-pro talent on defense. McCarthy's tasked with bringing the team its first playoff success in nearly a decade. Here are the winners and losers from this hiring. Winners: Mike McCarthy. As he did last time as a coach, tenure came to an end. McCarthy is back at the top after a year off. He's now coaching 3 of the most iconic teams in sports history in the Packers, Cowboys, and now the Steelers. McCarthy inherits a team with a talent. His tenure in Dallas was marked by productive offenses, but defenses that couldn't lift the team's ceiling enough and postseason letdowns. Team had talent in multiple spots on defense, but need more direction on offense with a young offensive line. He could go to work on the offense and find a trusted defensive coordinator to keep the ship going in the right direction on that side of the ball. Another winner, Mike Tomlin. Tomlin spent nearly 2 full decades at the helm in Pittsburgh, never finished with a losing record. His tenure was defined by stability, even amid outsized player personalities. The Steelers went with a first-time head coach, turned things around dramatically in his first season, and may have soured how media members, fans, and players alike viewed his final years. Now a potential improvement can be chalked up to a new but experienced head coach with a different area of expertise. Another winner, Aaron Rodgers. The oldest quarterback in the NFL hasn't yet announced whether or not he'll be back 2026. This move by the Steelers at least gives him a known quantity at head coach with whom he's worked before. Final year of the Rodgers-McCarthy tandem in Green Bay fell short of expectations. But after a few years in New York, maybe a return to someone familiar isn't the worst idea. At least McCarthy will know what to expect as the team navigates Rodgers' potential retirement and succession plan. What about the losers? Chris Shula. Think of iconic the Shula name with the Steelers could be. Los Angeles Rams defensive coordinator is one of the multiple candidates from that side of the ball in this hiring cycle and looked poised for his first head coaching gig. It also blended the Steelers' tradition of tapping a former defensive coach, like either a coordinator or positional coach, who was younger than the league average. Shula's time certainly coming, but this seemed like an ideal marriage. Another loser, Sean McDermott. The Steelers wanted to go with a proven head coach. McDermott may have been a solid option. He has more postseason success than McCarthy and has played high-leverage games in the AFC playoffs. McDermott may understandably take a year off after his late exit from Buffalo, but there's a chance Pittsburgh may have been better served waiting to interview him. It's been a long time, but Buffalo once had the longest postseason drought in the NFL before McDermott arrived and turned things around. Other losers, Dallas Cowboys. This is on the condition that McCarthy has postseason success in Pittsburgh. McCarthy wins in the playoffs in the AFC with the Steelers roster. It's going to reflect badly on the Cowboys. Dallas had more talent than Pittsburgh does this at this time, so it may call into question the playoff fortitude of some of the Cowboy stars. Here's another NFL story, this one with local interest. Bills Mafia needs a made man. Philip Rivers isn't it. The Buffalo Bills are desperate to win a Super Bowl, something the 66-year-old franchise has never done. It's plainly evident when they lost the Super Bowl Sunday 4 straight times between the 1990s and 1993 seasons. The Lombardi Trophy seemingly strayed farther from their grasp with each successive failure, despite Buffalo's admirable bridesmaid run. It's plainly evident Wednesday, January 21st, when Bills owner Terry Pegula attempted to explain his decision to fire head coach Sean McDermott after 9 seasons and 106 wins, with 8 playoff appearances. Pegula was still clearly upset about Buffalo's final offensive snap and its 33-30 overtime loss at Denver in the divisional round of the AFC playoffs. Broncos cornerback Jaquin McMillan's controversial interception / takeaway from Bills wideout Brandon Cooks. Yet Pegula wasn't upset with quarterback Josh Allen at final pick his 4th turnover of the day, to say nothing of the potential game-winning TD pass he missed at the end of regulation by overthrowing tight end Dawson Knox in the final seconds of the 4th quarter. Pegula apparently isn't overly upset with general manager Brandon Beane, who was also just awarded the title of president of football operations, despite some questionable salary cap management and draft decisions. Nope. Pegula saw a distraught locker room after the game and heaped the blame for Buffalo's latest postseason shortfall on McDermott, with a side reserved for receiver Keon Coleman. I felt we hit the proverbial playoff wall year after year. 13 seconds, missed field goals, the catch. You just sensed in that locker room. Players wondering, where do we go from here, said Pegula. Apparently, maybe, if Philip Rivers, who the team reportedly interviewed to replace McDermott on Friday, January 23rd. Say what? Well, let's get this straight. A team that's never won the Super Bowl, nor been to one in 32 years, is considering a former player with no coaching experience in the NFL or college football level. Replace a guy who's been grinding in the NFL for more than a quarter century and won 2/3 of his games at Buffalo, HC. A team that's never won the Super Bowl, nor been to one in 32 years, is considering a former player to break through at that proverbial playoff wall. Even though he's a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback himself, Rivers never broke through that proverbial playoff wall. McDermott was 8-8 in the playoffs with 2 losses in the AFC Championship game. As a QB1 of San Diego and Los Angeles Chargers, briefly the Indianapolis Colts, Rivers was 5-7 in the playoffs in 17-plus seasons. The Bolts, armed with the Hall of Famers LaDainian Tomlinson and Antonio Gates and a championship-caliber defense, went one and done in the 2006-2009 playoffs despite first-round byes and home games in San Diego. That's not to say those failures lay solely at the feet of Rivers, who famously played the 2007 AFC Championship game on a torn right ACL and meniscus. But how much of Buffalo's failures were McDermott's fault? Maybe the Bills did their version of the tush-push once too often in last year's 3-point AFC title game lost to Kansas City. Maybe Buffalo's defensive approach was tactically flawed and allowed the Chiefs to tie the game with 13 seconds left in regulation before winning a coin toss in an epic division round game in overtime 42-36 4 years ago, at a time when Allen didn't get a shot to possess the ball in OT. Yet McDermott didn't officiate Sunday's loss. He didn't fail to protect the ball. He didn't miss big kicks previous years. He did shepherd an emotionally spent team to an AFC East crown and play off win 3 years ago in the intermediate aftermath of Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffering cardiac arrest on the field in Week 17. But that's a story for another day. What we talk about here is a guy who has yet to win the big one, being replaced by one who never has either. Perhaps you say Rivers, if hired, would be brought the head man, not quarterback, and he's been quite successful coaching at St. Michael Catholic High School in Fairhope, Alabama, where he's gone 43-15 since temporarily retiring from the NFL after the 2020 season. I would say the last two former NFL players to become head coaches without the benefit of coaching experience at the NFL or college level are Jeff Saturday, 1-7 as the Colts interim coach in 2022, and Hall of Fame quarterback Norm Van Brocklin, who went 66-100 and plus 7 ties over 13 seasons between 1961 and 1974 and never reached the postseason. FWIW, Rivers hasn't won a high school championship either. Perhaps you say it's better to hire a potentially high-end prospect like Rivers a year or two early rather than wait and lose him. Just look at what Sean McVay, age 30, when he was hired by the Los Angeles Rams in 2017, has done while becoming one of the best coaches in league history, when not even on the job for a decade. Note, McVay had 8 seasons of NFL experience prior to joining the Rams. I would say whoever takes the Bills' job doesn't have the luxury of on-job training. Sure, Rivers knows how to deftly handle the media and immerse himself into the NFL's weekly cadence. Freshly reacquainted after coming out of retirement to start 3 games for the Colts in December. And while he wouldn't be charged with maintaining the field, as he's done in Fairhope, the demands of an NFL coach, never mind one with a family as large as Rivers, are infinite. And this assignment doesn't have the runaway of a rebuild. The Bills are a winnowing team and a generational quarterback, one who will enter his 9th NFL season in 2026. FWIW Cam Newton, the 2015 MVP, whose game was very similar to Allen's, including the punishment he absorbed, lasted 11 years, though the last few weren't very pretty. While Rivers wore number 17 like Allen, his game was completely dissimilar. So it's not like he leaned on his own professional experience all that much while translating the NFL-adjacent offense he's running at St. Michael's to the one he'd potentially ask Allen to execute. Yet the paramount consideration is that this is a Super Bowl or bust scenario, even if Pegula wasn't willing to co-sign that label for his team. One just knocked off its AFC, each perched by the younger New England Patriots in 2025, and now fighting to keep its championship window open. I don't know about pressure right now, but there's a lot of people that want to look at taking this job, Pegula said Wednesday. There's a lot of interest. Well, undoubtedly, despite cap issues, despite pending roster turnover, despite Allen having played the final game of his 20s, despite the obvious championship mandate, Pegula won't admit exist as his team moves into a new stadium and era. Ed Pagula, we've made changes and, it's do your best job, meaning the message to McDermott's successor. It's just unfair to Allen, his teammates, and frankly Rivers to think he's the best man for the job right now. The Mafia needs to look for a man-made elsewhere. Here's a soccer article. German executive calls for World Cup boycott. The 2026 World Cup is just months away as the United States, alongside Canada and Mexico, is preparing to host soccer's foremost competition. However, German Soccer Federation executive Oke Gottlieb is calling for talks about a boycott amid U.S. President Donald Trump's recent actions. Trump has stirred some outrage in Europe recently with his insistence on acquiring Greenland, a territory currently owned by Denmark. Trump has further strained relations with Europe as well as by threatening to impose tariffs on 8 European nations in his effort to pursue Greenland. I really wonder when the time will be think and talk about this boycott concretely, Gottlieb told the Hamburg Morgen Post newspaper. For me, that time has definitely come. The United States is scheduled to host 78 of the World Cup's 104 total matches. Here's how Gottlieb's comments could impact the upcoming tournament. Are others in favor of a boycott? Not currently. French Sports Minister Marina Ferreri said earlier last week that they were not considering a boycott, but did not rule the possibility out entirely if the situation with Greenland escalates. At the moment we're speaking, there's no desire from the ministry to boycott this major, much-anticipated competition, Ferrari commented on Tuesday, January 20th. That said, I'm not prejudging what might happen. Gottlieb compares potential boycott to U.S.'s 1980 Olympics boycott. There has been boycott of the World Cup before. In 1980, the United States boycotted the Olympics in the Soviet Union after the country invaded Afghanistan. Gottlieb claimed, by my reckoning, the potential threat is greater now than it was then. We need to have this discussion. The Germans were also displeased about the 2022 World Cup host Qatar. Qatar was too political for everyone, and now we're completely apolitical. That's something that really bothers me. He continued, as organizations and society, we're forgetting how to set taboos and boundaries and how to defend values. So when is the 2026 World Cup scheduled to start? Well, the World Cup is set to begin on June 11th with 2 Group A matches. Mexico will take on South Africa at 3 p.m. Eastern, and South Korea's opponent is yet to be determined for their 10 p.m. match. The United States' first game will be on June 12th, a match against Paraguay. That's set to start at 9 p.m. Eastern. Our next article is titled NCAA Approves Commercial Patches for Uniforms. More. Colleges are going to have another way to start generating revenue during the 25-26 athletic season. The Division I Cabinet on Friday, January 23rd, approved a proposal to allow Division I sports programs to place additional commercial logos or patches on uniforms, equipment, and apparel. Beginning August 1st, this would be allowed for any non-NCAA championship competition, including the regular season. College sports are an exciting new era of increased financial benefits for student athletes, and the Cabinet's vote today reflects the ongoing commitment of Division I members to drive additional revenues and fully fund those benefits. Josh Whitman, athletic director at Illinois, chair of the Cabinet, said in a press release. This all continues the NCAA's efforts to expand flexibility in the area of NCAA rules, thereby allowing schools and conferences to set standards that reflect their values and serve their unique needs. This important policy change is another step toward advancing that philosophy and providing members with increased flexibility. All Division I programs will have permission to have up to 2 additional commercial logos on their uniforms and apparel, plus 1 additional commercial logo on equipment during the preseason and regular season. An additional logo is allowed on uniforms and apparel for conference championships. Patches will be limited to a maximum of 4 square inches per logo. Restrictions on placement will be decided by committees for the postseason on how to handle the college football playoff, March Madness, College World Series, and other playoff tournaments. The continued expectation remains that logos must be outside of the designated sections of the uniforms as necessary for officiating purposes. In addition, the Cabinet also supports the NCAA's effort to explore possible policies for teams to wear commercial patches during NCAA championships in collaboration with the NCAA corporate marketing and media rights partners. Ohio State Athletic Director Ross Bjork talked to the Columbus Dispatch and part of the USA Today network on January 12th about the Buckeyes' potential interest in adding patches. It's a new frontier, Bork said. With all the changing landscape around college athletics, the need to drive revenue back to players, the athletes, especially in your marquee sports, it's just evolved into this realm. That's why you want to do it the right way with the right partner to make sure that it fits and is a clean and neat look. And our last article for the sports section is another college football story. Star lineman picks LSU after leaving Colorado. Former Colorado Star offensive lineman Jordan Seaton is headed to LSU to play for head coach Lane Kiffin after 2 standout years under Colorado coach Deion Sanders. Seaton announced it on Instagram on Friday, January 23rd, after a whirlwind recruiting process that also involved Miami, Florida, and Oregon. A Florida booster claimed Seaton's representatives, including his uncle, wanted bidding for Seaton's services to start at $2.5 million. It's not clear what he would earn at LSU for his name, image, and likeness. To Coach Kiffin, LSU, and the state of Louisiana, thank you for an opportunity to chase greatness in the franchise, Seaton said on Instagram. Seaton will be a junior at LSU, but is expected to declare for the NFL draft after the 2026 season. He played left tackle at Colorado, where Sanders recruited him from the IMG Academy in Florida as the number 1 offensive line recruit in the nation. After deciding to transfer, this 6'5", 330-pound Seaton was the number 4 transfer prospect in the nation for 2026, according to 247 Sports. At LSU, he expected to protect Arizona State transfer quarterback Sam Leavitt, much like he did in 2024 for Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders and 3 Colorado quarterbacks in 2025. His departure from Colorado left many Buffalo fans sad or bitter because they liked his apparent loyalty and talent as a future NFL draft pick. He won the 28th annual Buffalo Heart Award given to favorite CU players by fans. As recently as January 9th, Seaton was trying to get his cousin, Ohio State offensive line Javon McFadden, to join him in Boulder. You want to play together? Seaton said to his cousin on social media site X. McFadden committed to Colorado. Seaton announced he was leaving Colorado on January 12th, 10 days after the transfer portal opened for business. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 29 minutes after the hour. We now turn to the entertainment section of USA Today. We start with a review of the upcoming Grammy Awards. The first slate of nominees could lead to a unique set of winners this season. More voters mean fiercer competition, and that's a good thing for the Grammy Awards. The 3,800 musician creators and professionals who joined the Recording Academy in 2025, many of them young female and People of Color, impacted the 2026 nominations by producing one of the most diverse slates in decades. So how the nearly 15,000 voting members cast their ballots? And leading nominee Kendrick Lamar, with 9, maintained the momentum from his category sweep of 5 awards last year. Super Bowl halftime headliner Bad Bunny, with 6 nods, is inarguably the biggest global music star at the moment. Will his music engage in any language, translate to wins in major categories such as album and record of the year? Will child actor turned songwriter turned singer Leon Thomas capitalize on his 6 nominations, including Best New Artist? And what about Lady Gaga, the most nominated female artist with 7? Shockingly, none of her 14 Grammys has been in the big 4 categories: Song of the Year, Record of the Year, Album of the Year, and Best New Artist. Will that change this year? As we wait for February 1st Grammy Awards ceremony, here are best prognostications for who will win the big 4 categories. Who will win Grammy Record of the Year in 2026? GTMF, Bad Bunny. Manchild, Sabrina Carpenter. Anxiety, Dashi. Wildflower, Billie Eilish. Abracadabra, Lady Gaga. Luther, Kendrick Lamar, with SZA. The Subway, Chappell Roan. P.T. Rosé, Bruno Mars. Who will win? Abracadabra, Lady Gaga. Who should win? Abracadabra, Lady Gaga. An argument could be made for Chappell Roan's dreamy rumination on the one that got away. Dossier's dexterous interplay of melody and rhymes, and Carpenter's gender-flipping sardonic genius. But Lady Gaga's searing synth-pop anthem, layered with conflict, crackling with energy, and offering one of her most robust vocal performances, deserves the win. Besides the enchanted lush production, who doesn't appreciate a pop song that peppers a few Latin words, amor and morta, into the chorus? What about Grammy's Album of the Year award? DBI Tira Mas Fotos, Bad Bunny. Swag, Justin Bieber. Man's Best Friend, Sabrina Carpenter. Let God Sort 'Em Out, Clips, Pusha T, and Malice. Mayhem, Lady Gaga. GNX, Kendrick Lamar. Mutt, Leon Thomas. Chromatopecia, Tyler, the Creator. Who'll win? DB Tara Mas Fotos, Bad Bunny. Who should win? GNX, Kendrick Lamar. Bad Bunny would make history with the first all-Spanish language release to nab the coveted award. Given his global impact, lyrics that target the importance of cultural identity, and albums of engrossing musical diversity spans reggaeton, house, and the sounds of his native Puerto Rico, plena salsa, seems likely he get to deliver an acceptance speech. Be well deserved, but leading nominee Lamar, with his late 2024 surprise release, dropped an avalanche of West Coast hip-hop that showcased the scope of his talents, with a swagger of Squabble Up and the fiery grip of Man at the Garden, and tender interplay with SZA on Luther, an album both musically cohesive and chaotic. What about Grammy Song of the Year? Abracadabra, Lady Gaga, written by Henry Walter, Lady Gaga, and Andrew Watt. Anxiety by Dossier, written by Jayla Hickman. A P.T. Rose, Bruno Mars, Amy Allen, Christopher Brody Brown, Roger Shahad, Henry Walter, Omar Fedi, Philip Lawrence, Bruno Mars, Che Young Park, and Theron Thomas. GTM, Bad Bunny, written with Benito Antonio Martinez, Ocasio, Scott Dietrich, Ben Frank Falk, Robert Jose Rosando Torres, Marco Daniel Borio, Hugh Rene Session, Sabrina and Tyler Thomas Spry. Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters, Hunter X, EJ Audrey, Nuna Remi, written by EJAI and Mark Sonnenblick, Luther, Kendrick Lamar with SZA, written by Jack Antonoff, Rashwada Larish Baca, Matthew Bernard Inc., Scott Bridgway, Sam Dew, Kendrick Lamar, Mac Anthony Spears, Selena Rowe, and Kamasi Washington. Manchild, Sabrina Carpenter, written by Amy Allen, Jack Antonoff, and Sabrina Carpenter. Wildflower, Billie Eilish, written by Billie Eilish, O'Connor, and Phineas O'Connor. Who'll win? Golden Hunter X, Who Should Win? Abracadabra, Lady Gaga. Would have made more sense for Golden to make the cut for Record of the Year rather than the song. Its message of a female empowerment is lyrically laudable, but the out of the dark into the light, the A-girl power proselytizing is delivered with zero gravitas. And why would it be when the primary audience for K-pop Demon Hunters is preteen girls? Meanwhile, Lady Gaga steeped her dance floor romp in visual imagery, the lady in red haunting dances, dark moonlight, and the kind of complex lyrics that require untangling to fully appreciate her study of self-doubt, death, and yearning. What about the Grammy for Best New Artist? Olivia Dean, Cat's Eye, The Marias, Addison Rae, Somber, Leon Thomas, Alex Warren, Lola Young. Who will win? Alex Warren, who should win? Olivia D. Hype House, TikTok star Warren made noise in the United Kingdom and Ireland 2024 with the release of his EP, You'll Be Alright Kid, Chapter 1. But his official full-length debut, 2025, bearing a similar name, You'll Be Alright Kid, conquered the U.S. charts with a plodding ballad so aptly titled Ordinary. Jean, meanwhile, has already solidified her stance as a stylish soul pop singer with pipes reminiscent of Amy Winehouse and the classy aura of Sade, spotlighting her breakthrough single, Man I Need. Our next article is titled Mel Brooks' Doc Exposes the Pain of Losing Anne Bancroft. Putting Mel Brooks in front of a camera guarantees some version of his signature screwball brilliance. That manic, mischievous comedic genius is on full display in archival moments through HBO's Mel Brooks, the 99-year-old man. However, the two-part documentary, premiering January 22nd and 23rd, looks behind the perpetually smiling mask of the comedy legend who turns 100 on June 28th. Directed by Judd Apatow and Michael Bonfiglio, the in-depth examination shows the power of Brooks' big life loves, his wife Anne Bancroft and best friend Carl Reiner, and the pain in losing them. Mel is someone who's always been hilarious everywhere. We haven't seen him really talk about his life, his feelings, and what this journey's been like, said Apatow, who interviews Brooks over 5 days at the icon's Los Angeles home. The challenge was to get somebody that hides behind a shtick to drop it. Mel was ready to open up. Brooks speaks colorfully and candidly, starting with his impoverished Brooklyn childhood, raised with 3 brothers by his mother after his father died of tuberculosis. Despite the hardships, the loving childhood environment propels young Melvin Kaminsky to break out into show business, change his name, and seek global adoration. Mel received so much love as a kid that he didn't want it to stop, tried to make it continue on a worldwide level, Bonfiglio said. And with Mel Brooks, love of humanity comes through his work. That's part of who he is. The documentary covers Brooks' triumphs as the Wonder Kid writer in Sid Caesar's Your Show Shows and his 1974 movie breakout, Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, and his theatrical rebirth with the 2021 Broadway production of The Producers. This most moving discussion, Brooks endures partnership with Reiner, who died in 2020 at age 98, in his nearly 41-year marriage to Bancroft, who died in 2025 at the age of 73. The love story between the mischievous, short-statured Brooks and the glamorous Bancroft is especially touching. Bancroft supported Brooks when the comedy writer was struggling before his movie success. The actress was the household breadwinner, slipping money under the table to her husband so he could still pay for dinner. The couple raised a son, Max. Brooks also has 3 children from his first marriage, and starred in movies such as 1983's To Be or Not to Be. On camera, Brooks allows himself to go uncharacteristically deep, with Apatow saying of their pairing, "She got you." "Exactly, she got me," Brooks responded, closing his eyes. "She gets me." When asked what he misses about Bancroft, Brooks waxes reverently and spontaneously. "Too many things. Things that nobody in the world would understand," Brooks said. When faced with an unhappy moment, the look on her face. When making up her mind to go somewhere, how fast she turned and moved. It's hard to explain, just some things that stay with you forever. Even 2 decades after Bancroft's death, Brooks was instantly overcome with grief, Apatow said. It was so poetic and heartbreaking. He loves her so much, and it's like there was no words he could tell us that would make us understand. The relationship stands as one of Hollywood's most hallowed. How many marriages last 41 years, especially when the two are so deeply and madly in love with each other, Bonfiglio says. It's inspiring and beautiful. The 99-year-old man dives into the decades-long romance between Brooks and Reiner, who Brooks calls my best friend in the world. After meeting the star and fellow writer on Your Show of Shows, Brooks had his first acting success in the duo's famed comedy routine, The 2,000-Year-Old Man, which was made into a series of records. It started off as this funny thing they did at parties, and one day TV personality Steve Allen said, "You should make an album out of this," Apatow says, and this made Mel Brooks a star. No one knew his Hollywood writer before that album. Filmmaker Rob Reiner makes a powerful posthumous appearance in the documentary with an interview framing the relationship between Brooks and his father, Carl. "My father was like a second banana. He never felt like he needed to be the star," Rob Reiner said in the documentary. He'd push Mel into a corner, would make Mel explode with creativity and humor. There's no jealousy in the perfect comedy pairing. Brooks, who lost his dad when he was 2, said that kindly Reiner is a father figure, even though he's only 4 years older than Brooks. Off camera, Mel talked about Carl too, Apatow said. "Mel told me that Carl was so nice. He was as funny as me, yet he played the straight man, and he let me get all the laughs. How amazing a guy is that?" In their later years, the two widowers, Reiner's wife Estelle died in 2008, would spend every evening together at Reiner's home watching television and dining off TV trays. Brooks painfully discusses discovering Reiner collapsed in his home in June 2020. I'm surprised he went into such detail, talking about Carl and their deep friendship, and Brooks just went into the story of the moment that Carl passed, said Apatow. So much of this documentary is about those two love affairs in Mel Brooks' life, Carl and Anne. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 44 minutes after the hour. Our next article is titled, "Grab Your Hankies. Hamnet is giving us hope this Oscar season." If everything feels like Shakespearean tragedy right now, an Oscar-nominated film with a bard might just be the soulful salve you need. Director Chloe Zhao's Hamnet, in selected theaters now nationwide 3 days ago, took a slow burn approach to this award season. Aside from powerhouse star Jessie Buckley, It had been lagging behind louder Oscar bait vehicles, one battle after another. Sinners has found a new life thanks to a Golden Globe Best Drama win and 8 nominations at March 15th's Academy Awards, including Best Picture. That often equals a welcome mainstream signal boost of films that could use it. As with Hamnet, it brings extra attention to a lush historical drama that looks great, takes you on an emotional roller coaster, and leaves you wrecked in the best possible way with a sensational all the feels ending. Based on Maggie O'Farrell's novel, the fictionized origin story behind Shakespeare's all-timer Hamlet starts with a love story in Stratford, England. Young Tudor Will Shakespeare, played by Paul Mescal, falls for Agnes, played by Buckley. Free Spirit, who sometimes think is a forest witch. They marry, start a family, and have 3 children, but Shakespeare travels to London for weeks at a time for his work in the theater, while Agnes races the kids. Buckley's an absolute force of nature in the role, and while she's a joy to behold, the movie isn't always an easy watch. From Agnes's brutal childbirth scenes to the retching heartbreak when the plague hits their house and takes 11-year-old Hamnet, played by Jacoby Jupe. Dio immerses you in Agnes and Will's grief while also touching on their own individual internal tussles. Resentment brews in Agnes while Will isolates himself in London trying to deal with his loss. As escapism goes, much of the movie isn't exactly feel-good, yet it all leads to a breathtaking finale as offended Agnes travels to London for the premiere of Hamlet, thinking and enjoying a needed catharsis along with Will. Such a touching moment that Zao essentially dares you not to cry. Good luck keeping those tears in, too. There's so many cinematic treats at work, Buckley and Mescal in the height of their talents. The Jupe brothers, Jacoby and Big Brother Noah, as the stage Hamlet, who are both going places, playing characters that reflect each other in a metaphysical way. Zao's little feats of genius, like throwing in a bit of otherworldly flavor, and the heady exploration of themes like human connection, the perils of parenthood, and how powerful art can be in the face of devastation. Plus, I haven't seen it yet, cast and crew, Zao herself dancing to We Found Love, like the best end credit scene that never was. Can Hamnet beat a couple of Michael B. Jordans and a pack of vampires or revolutionary Leonardo DiCaprio at the Oscars? Well, maybe. Whether it's the best picture isn't the point. Perhaps it's just the best picture to fill you with hope. Here's a music review. Ed Sheeran's Spotify Billions Club concert hits the stream. In early November, Ed Sheeran played a very different venue than the stadiums he's packed this decade. The singer pop behemoth regaled the crowd of about 2,000 at the Royal Dublin Society as he commemorated his membership in the Spotify's Billions Club, spotlighting his 14 songs that surpassed 1 billion streams on the platform. The 90-minute show, which he performed with his acoustic guitar, looping pedal keyboard, and unassuming charm, is now available to watch at Spotify.com at a trimmed-down 24 minutes. Billions Club Live with Ed Sheeran, a concert film, also includes snippets of the England-born Sheeran reflecting on his spiritual home of Ireland. His father John is a native of Belfast, while his mother's family hails from County Wexford, and why he requested his performance take place in Dublin. I feel like coming home here, he said in the film, echoing his comments at the show when he finally said, I felt that's where it all began. The concert film includes performances of Sheeran's first song to hit 1 billion streams in 2017, Shape of You, as well as Thinking Out Loud, the Gotta Play in Ireland Galloway Girl, with fiddler Naomi Nunn, and a sweet version of Perfect, with a fervent fan waving phone lights in a backdrop into the ballad. The support of those devotees, identified as Sheeran's top fans based on Spotify listing data, what keeps Sheeran motivated to write, he said. I remember playing a gig in Ipswich at the Steamboat Tavern. Maybe 20 people had come to watch me that night, and they knew my songs. And I remember just being like, that couldn't have been just for me. I'm just really happy that 20 people love my music enough to know the lyrics to my songs and sing them along. It's a super special thing. It never gets old, Sheeran said in an interview in the film. Along with his billion stream hits, Sheeran tosses Azazam from his current Play album into the set and closes the night with a mostly cappella rendition of Parting Glass, leaving fans with the lyrical sentiment, "Good night and enjoy, be with you all." The Sheeran's Billion Club performance was the third installment of the streamer's live performance showcase, following the weekend in Los Angeles in December 2024 and Miley Cyrus in Paris, July of 2025. Sheeran returns to North American stadiums in June as part of his Loop Tour. Here's where you can stream Oscar-nominated movies at home. Academy Award nominations are finally out. Now here comes your fun part, catching up on all the Oscar movies you've missed. You have more than a month and a half to get busy and get watching the Best Picture contenders, those films with all the top acting talent, and more before the big night. Here are some nominated movies to watch from your couch right now. Begonia, Yorgos Lanthimos' gonzo comedy/psychological romp, which scored nods from Best Picture and adapted screenplay, offers up dark web weirdness and sci-fi paranoia. Best Actress nominee Emma Stone claims a pharmaceutical CEO was kidnapped by a pair of co-conspirator theorist cousins, played by Jesse Plemons and Adrienne Deblis, who believe she's an alien bent on world domination, leading to a battle of wills and a wildly chaotic climax. You can see it on Peacock, Apple TV, Amazon, Fandango. Then there's Elio. Pixar's back in the Oscar category. It's owned over the years. Best animated film with this family-friendly sci-fi adventure that throws back to the 1980 days of explorers and the Last Starfighter. A young boy, voiced by Giannis Kebrieb, yearns to be abducted by aliens, actually gets his wish and becomes BFFs with a blobby alien. If you're catching up on nominated films with your youngsters, it's best for any kids who have never seen E.T. You can see it on Disney Plus, Apple TV, Amazon, and Fandango. F1, the movie. Joseph Kosinski's Formula One movie came out of nowhere to score 4 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, as aging driver for hire on an underdog race team. Brad Pitt brings plenty of personality and vroom steeliness. There's four-wheel crowd pleaser. There's macho panache and white-knuckle action sequences aplenty as Pitt's eccentric Formula One veteran plays reluctant mentor to a hotshot rookie, played by Damson Idris. You can see it on Apple, Amazon, and Fandango. And lastly, we have Frankenstein. Guillermo del Toro, a thoughtful and moving adaptation of Mary Shelley's legendary work, made the Best Picture cut as part of its 9 Oscar nominations. Victor Frankenstein, played by Oscar Isaac, is the egotistical scientist playing God and creating life with a creature, supporting actor contender Jacob Elordi, made from discarded human parts. Come for the Gothic majesty, stay for Elord's stunning and emotive performance as the creature tries to be human in an inhuman world. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from USA Today for the 26th day of January on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. USA Today is read weekdays at 12. Your reader for this hour has been Tom Scanlon. Thanks for listening.
Coming up next on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have episode number 18 of Mark Twain by Ron Chernow. Following that at 3 o'clock is Smithsonian Magazine, and at 4 o'clock a re-airing of today's Buffalo News. Stay with us for these readings and more. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision,